Today we publish a white paper on immigration, a strategy absolutely central to my plan for change.
Since assuming the role of UK Prime Minister in July 2024, Keir Starmer has faced the daunting task of steering Britain through a turbulent economic and political landscape. His leadership has been defined by efforts to bolster the UK's post-Brexit economy through ambitious trade deals and to address immigration, a perennial flashpoint in British politics. By May 2025, Starmer's government has secured significant trade agreements with India and the United States while rolling out policies to curb both legal and illegal migration. These initiatives reflect a delicate balancing act, promoting economic growth and global partnerships while responding to domestic pressures, particularly from Nigel Farage's Reform UK, which has capitalised on voter discontent over immigration and economic policies. This analysis explores Starmer's trade deals and migration policies, their political and economic implications, and the challenges they pose for his Labour government. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Trade deals, a post-Brexit economic lifeline. Starmer's trade agenda has centred on forging new economic partnerships to offset the disruptions of Brexit and counter global trade uncertainties, notably Donald Trump's tariff policies in 2025. Two landmark deals with India and the US stand out as cornerstones of his strategy. The UK-India Trade Agreement. Announced in May 2025, the UK-India trade deal is praised by Starmer as Britain's most important post-Brexit agreement, expected to boost trade by £25.5 billion. It cuts tariffs on UK goods like whiskey from 150% to 75%, then 40% by 2035, cars and cosmetics. It also opens Indian markets to UK sectors such as aerospace and clean energy. For UK consumers, it means cheaper Indian imports. Starmer called it proof of stable, pragmatic leadership. However, the deal has sparked controversy, particularly over a provision exempting Indian workers seconded to the UK for short-term assignments from paying national insurance (NI) contributions for 3 years. Critics, including Nigel Farage and conservative figures like Robert Jenrick, have accused Starmer of betraying British workers, arguing that the exemption makes Indian labour cheaper for employers, potentially undercutting local jobs. Farage tweeted, "Two-tier Keir betrays British workers," while Jenrick claimed, "British workers come last in Starmer's Britain." Government officials have countered that the exemption applies only to a small number of temporary workers and aligns with similar agreements with countries like the US and South Korea. They also clarified that no additional student visas were granted, debunking earlier speculation. The controversy reflects broader tensions in Starmer's trade strategy. While the deal promises long-term economic gains, its immediate benefits are modest, estimated at a 0.1% GDP increase. And critics argue it fails to fully capitalise on Brexit's promise of sovereignty over labour markets. Some, including the European Movement UK, contend that Britain could have secured a stronger deal as part of the EU, which wields greater negotiating clout. The US-UK trade deal.
Both countries have agreed that the economic security is national security and will be working together as allies.
On May 8, 2025, Starmer and US President Donald Trump announced a breakthrough trade agreement. The first since Trump imposed sweeping 10% tariffs on global imports in April. The deal reduces US tariffs on British exports such as cars, steel, and aluminum, offering relief to industries like Jaguar Land Rover and British Steel, which had faced severe strain. Starmer called it a fantastic historic day, emphasizing its potential to save thousands of jobs. The agreement also expands access for US agricultural goods, though Starmer insisted UK food standards, banning hormone-treated beef and chlorinated chicken, would remain in place. The announcement, staged with a choreographed phone call between the two leaders, highlighted Starmer's effort to strengthen ties with Washington. However, critics, including Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch, argued that Britain was shafted with key tariffs still in place, particularly in pharmaceuticals and film. Economists say the deal's short-term economic benefits are limited, but it sets the stage for future talks, including a potential technology partnership. Politically, the deal reinforces the UK-US relationship, but exposes Brexit-era trade constraints. Migration policies. Immigration has become a key challenge for Starmer, with net migration hitting 906,000 in the year to June 2023, a surge he blames on the Conservatives' open borders experiment after Brexit. By May 2025, pressure is mounting for Starmer to fulfill his promise to cut both legal and illegal migration, especially after Reform UK's major wins in the May local elections, where it took control of 10 councils. His policies focus on easing pressure on public services while countering Farage's anti-immigration message. Legal migration reforms. Starmer plans to reform the points-based immigration system introduced by the Conservatives in 2021, which he says encouraged liberal immigration. In a November 2024 speech, he announced a spring 2025 white paper to revise visa routes, including the skilled worker and shortage occupation lists. His focus is on training British workers to reduce dependence on foreign labour, with penalties for non-compliant businesses. The Migration Advisory Committee is reviewing sectors like health and social care for over-reliance on immigration. Starmer's stance on legal migration has sparked criticism from both right and left. Reform UK calls his plans weak, citing the India trade deal's NI exemption. Meanwhile, unions and Greens warn harsh cuts could damage public services. With net migration at 728,000, pressure for results is mounting. Illegal migration and channel crossings. On illegal migration, Starmer has prioritised tackling people smuggling gangs and reducing channel crossings, projected to reach 10,000 in spring 2025. A deal with Iraq, announced in November 2024, facilitates faster returns of Iraqi migrants, the seventh largest group crossing the channel, through enhanced cooperation on identity documents and reintegration programs. Starmer has praised Italy's hard-right Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni for her success in cutting irregular migration, signalling openness to third-country deals. He has also explored offshore asylum processing, inspired by Albania's agreement with Italy, though he emphasises disrupting smuggling networks over returns agreements. Starmer's decision to scrap the Conservatives' Rwanda scheme reflects his rejection of costly, symbolic policies, but his alternative, strengthening ties with Europol and pursuing EU cooperation, has met scepticism. French President Emmanuel Macron has resisted a bilateral returns deal, insisting that the Channel crisis requires a broader European solution. Critics, including Reform UK, argue that Starmer's focus on international partnerships lacks the urgency needed to stop the boats, a slogan that resonates with voters. Political and economic implications. Starmer's trade and migration policies are intertwined, reflecting his attempt to project economic competence while addressing voter anxieties. The India and US trade deals bolster his credentials as a global leader, but their modest immediate benefits and controversial elements, e.g., the NI exemption, fuel accusations of prioritizing foreign interests over British workers. Migration, meanwhile, remains a political minefield. Reform UK's electoral success has pushed Starmer to adopt a tougher stance, but his refusal to confront the European Convention on Human Rights or set migration targets risks appearing indecisive. Economically, the trade deals offer long-term growth potential, but Starmer's broader agenda, marked by increased public sector spending and new regulations, has drawn criticism for lacking coherence. The Telegraph argues that without tax cuts, the deal's benefits will be muted, accusing Starmer of indecision when faced with trade-offs between globalism and domestic priorities. Politically, Starmer's falling poll ratings and Labour's local election losses underscore the urgency of delivering tangible results before the next general election. Challenges and future outlook. Starmer faces tough trade and migration challenges. He must balance US and EU ties, manage Trump-era tariffs, and show progress on migration without harming key sectors. Public support leans pro-EU, while reform, UK pressures tougher border control. Though India and US deals are political wins, real gains depend on smart execution. Voters demand results, especially on channel crossings. Without bold, clear policies, Starmer risks losing ground to Farage's populism and failing to persuade a skeptical public of his vision.